They'll have it made, but there's going to be big problems there.
Okay, we'll keep watching that area and see what happens. Thanks a lot, Alan. The rock group Steely Dan was...
Miami this morning. The storm, the most powerful to hit the United States in over 20 years, moved ashore at 5 a.m. and has all of southern Florida preparing for the worst today, Monday, August 24th, 1992.
From NBC News, this is Today with Bryant Gumbel and Catherine Turek.
And good morning. Welcome to Today. Good morning and welcome to Today on a Monday morning. As we greet you, we're going to go direct from Studio 3B to the National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida, where we are joined on the line by the center's director, Dr. Bob Sheets. Dr. Sheets, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
What's the latest on Andrew's status?
Well, indeed, the hurricane just moved right across us. We were in the eye wall here with the building shaking pretty good for a while, and the building suffered some damage, but we're in good shape. As far as the hurricane is concerned, it's moving toward the west now across the Everglades. Will be threatening the southwest coast of Florida here in the next hour or so, and then move out over the open Gulf and be a threat to the north Gulf Coast up in the Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas area within about 2 days.
Once it moves out into the Gulf, does it figure to pick up in intensity?
It's pretty strong right now. We had at least a strong Category 3 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. That means probably 130 miles per hour or maybe even slightly stronger than that. And then it's not going to weaken much as it moves across the peninsula, maybe 20 miles per hour, and then probably pick that right up by this afternoon.
Its winds had been higher. There had been some speculation that it might even be upgraded to a Category 5. It does not figure to get to that level of intensity?
It did not get that way before it struck this coast. Fortunately, the potential perhaps is there. 5s are very rare, but the potential may be there as it gets out into the Gulf.
You talked about it coming ashore on the Gulf Coast, Texas, parts of Louisiana too. How far north, how far inland does it figure to do damage?
Well, right now across the Florida Peninsula here in Dade County, I think that here in South Florida, Miami, I think the damage is probably substantial. Of course, we haven't gotten outside to see what's going on except around our own building. And then as it moves out here and then moves on toward the North Gulf Coast, that's about 2 days from now.
It came in at high tide, we understand. Can you tell us anything about the rains and the flooding?
Rains were no problem because it was moving so fast that I don't think we had any problem with there. The flooding around Biscayne Bay, we've heard some reports of about 8 feet or so, and so I'm sure that there was some water up on Key Biscayne, Miami Beach area. The wind damage in the South Dade area is probably going to be some substantial amounts.
So, Bob Sheets, let's see if we can do a bottom line on this. Came ashore on the southeast coast, moving across right now on the west coast of Florida, figures to go out in the Gulf, perhaps will pick up intensity, and then in about 2 days threaten parts of Texas, Louisiana?
That's right. As far as the center would likely move inland over the North Gulf Coast, the probabilities are about the same from Mobile across to the Port Arthur area.
All right. Dr. Bob Sheets, thanks very much. Appreciate you being with us.
You're welcome.
Although any hurricane in which you're caught seems horrific, Andrew truly is. In force and in fact, it is one of the worst hurricanes of this century. NBC's Bob Hager is in Miami with more on that. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Bryant. Well, you could tell it was a big one when it came ashore here just before dawn, actually about 25 miles south of Miami, over the community of Homestead, Florida, and there were gusts clocked up to 164 miles an hour. Phenomenal. The building where we rode out the storm, a cinder block building, actually shook. It was a dangerous, frightening storm. This is how Hurricane Andrew looked as the winds roared ashore. It was an awesome sight, a powerful storm reminiscent of the big Hurricane Hugo, which had done $5 billion damage in South Carolina 3 years ago. This morning in South Florida, power is out over a widespread area. Trees are down. Buildings have been damaged. And yet there were some, like this homeless man, who chose to ride the storm out exposed to the elements. But because communications are intermittent, it's impossible to tell just how serious damage has been. It seems apparent it will be heavy. The governor has declared a state of emergency. The National Guard may be called out later today to begin the long job of recovery here. So now, as Bob Sheets says, we may be back here for the next couple of days if indeed Andrew heads back out into the Gulf of Mexico, gathers intensity there as it goes over that warm water again, and then threatens Louisiana or Texas. Brian?
Bob, I know you're in Miami, so you may not be in a great position to answer this question, but how broad an area of South Florida has been hit? Can you tell us that?
Yes, I think it'll go from here on down to the Keys. Not much north of Miami, but I think the main damage is going to turn out to be to South Miami, to, as we said, the Homestead area as well, over into the Everglades, and most of the southern part of Florida, below Miami.
All right, Bob, we're hopeful that damage is just structural. Thank you. Authorities are hoping that their broad evacuation orders, issued well in advance of the storm, will minimize Andrew's deadly potential. More than 1 million South Florida residents were told to flee in the face of the hurricane, and as a result, evacuation shelters are jammed. NBC's Noah Nelson has more on that.
By early evening, the streets of downtown Miami were deserted, except for some of the city's homeless. They had ignored warnings to seek shelter from the coming hurricane.
What are y'all going to do tonight? Try to make it. Aren't you afraid of what the wind and the water? I mean, the water's going to be up over these things.
Well, if it gets too bad, we just move up to high ground.
Where are you going to go?
Anywhere we feel it's safe.
Even those who had been through hurricanes before were playing it right to the edge.
You're going to shelter.
Police units and buses were out offering those still on the street one last chance to come in.
We're here trying to help them, explaining to them they're not going to jail. We're taking them to a shelter like a school where they're going to be fed and they're going to be safe from the storm. However, they refuse to go. Those that refuse, we can't force.
No one had to force thousands of families who went to Red Cross shelters voluntarily. By midnight, many of the shelters were full.
It's not the most comfortable place to be, of course, but I feel safe here.
The weather had become an equalizer. Vacationers from Germany, young women from Japan, and tourists from Argentina.
I don't know what is a hurricane because in my country it's not the hurricane.
You don't have hurricanes in Argentina?
No, never. Never.
Many people accept the shelters as their temporary home, hoping they will have something to go back to once the hurricane passes. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Miami.
You heard Bob Sheets note moments ago that Andrew is making its way across the state. So even as Florida's southeast coast is being battered, residents of the state's west coast are preparing for Andrew's expected arrival sometime this afternoon. NBC's Henry Champ is in Orlando, Florida now with more on that. Henry, good morning.
Good morning, Bryant. There are scenes like this all through Central Florida. Evacuees packing into school gymnasiums after they fled the Miami area last night to seek safety.
In Orlando, the hotel lobbies were jammed. Evacuees from South Florida escaping the fury of Hurricane Andrew, but unable to find rooms.
I called maybe about 20, 30 hotels, no vacancies.
They started coming Sunday afternoon, choking the highways north. By nightfall, the main streets of Orlando were jammed. The city has 80,000 hotel rooms. It's the site of Disney World. But that wasn't enough.
Orlando is sold out. There are no rooms in all of Orlando. We're just trying to find rooms right now.
Despite the warnings, most people left their departure to the last minute.
I made a decision that it's better to be safe than sorry and took my family out and came to Orlando.
Florida's north central communities set up special shelters, knowing exactly what kind of damage could occur.
Well, right now it's better than anything because otherwise if we hit the hurricane there, we live in a mobile home, it would have been dangerous.
It might have been this country's biggest evacuation ever. State police at one time were telling us that the bumper-to-bumper traffic coming out of the Miami area actually stretched for more than 100 miles. Brian?
My goodness. Okay. Henry Champ, thank you. Florida's Governor Lawton Chiles has already declared a state of emergency because of the hurricane. Among other things, he's called up 1,500 National Guard troops, and we'll be talking with the governor in just a few moments. Before it hit South Florida, Hurricane Andrew battered the Bahamas with winds of up to 120 miles an hour and claimed at least 4 lives. No word yet on how many others were injured. We understand the trees were down and roads were flooded. And while Willard Scott has the morning off, we are joined by Joe Whitty, meteorologist. Joe, what can you tell us about the path that Andrew is on?
Andrew is halfway across Florida already, leaving Dade County, moving into Monroe County, which is basically Everglade country. And so there's not many people there, so that's good news. and probably within the next 2 to 3 hours, it will be out over the Gulf of Mexico, and over those warm waters will start to gather more energy, and then it curves up towards Louisiana, Texas by about Wednesday night.
I'm sorry, without being too specific or too technical,
Yeah.
why does it necessarily gain energy when it's over the warm waters of the Gulf?
That's the source of it. It's like being on a hot stove, and a lot of that evaporation from the warm water adds the energy or the water vapor, and as that rises, it condenses, even rises faster because of the energy released by the condensation process.
And conversely, it usually loses momentum over land, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of land in the state of Florida for it to lose momentum over.
That's true. It's going to cross Florida probably in about 4 to 5 hours, so it'll be over warm water. And it passed over the Gulf Stream, which was a temperature of 86 degrees. And the Gulf waters are shallow. They're relatively warm, 86 degrees. They figure the water temperature of 84 degrees is sort of the critical line. If you have water warmer than that, then that's really conducive to firing up.
How broad an area of alert are we talking about along the Gulf Coast when we talk about it going up into Texas, Louisiana? How big an area are we talking about?
At this stage, when we're talking about 36 to 48 hours ahead of time, we're probably talking plus or minus 200 miles for weather watches. But generally,
Can you tell us from where to where?
Generally from around the Galveston, Houston area up to Mobile, Alabama, generally. But that's really 36 to 48 to possibly 72 hours away. So we've got a long time to track that and watch that very closely.
Could it be upgraded, Joe, to a Category 5 potentially, or not?
We have to watch it. Remember, Saturday morning, this was only a tropical storm, and then all of a sudden it blew up like crazy, and it was almost a 4. So that's an update on the hurricane situation. Let's go to the local forecast around your neck of the woods.
Well, finally, months, a high amplitude pattern, and a trough coming across the Rockies, a lot of inclement weather out of it, and a ridge over the eastern part of the country. Putting those clouds into motion, we can see how this trough is acting as a channel of moisture from the southwest up into the central part of the country. There's been quite a bit of precipitation, and may act as a channel as well later in the week for moisture from the Hurricane Andrew. Well, during the past 24 hours, we'll talk about our tropical systems in a bit, but elsewhere, there were strong thunderstorms here in parts of Kentucky and the Ohio Valley. Paducah had more than 2 inches of rain yesterday. Northern Plains, chilly, cold, rainy, temperatures in the 50s, anywhere from a half to 1 inch reported in a number of locations in South Dakota. Of course, the snow over the weekend in the northern Rockies. Helena, Montana had a record snowfall for August with a bit more than 6 inches. Now, down in the southwest, we have what remains of Hurricane or Tropical Storm Lester, just a big mass of moisture which has moved over the southwestern part of the country. Prescott had a 24-hour rain total as of yesterday evening of 2 2/3 inches of rain. More rain, 1 to 2 inches estimated in southeastern Arizona. Payson had more than an inch. Chama, New Mexico had 8/10 of an inch, and there was some flooding around Blythe, California yesterday. Now, down in the southeast, of course, we've got the Hurricane Andrew, which moved through the Bahamas yesterday and has moved onshore in South Florida early this morning. Now, it still is a very strong hurricane. Will move across southern Florida. This is the official Hurricane Center position at 5 a.m. The eye is now in southern Florida early this morning. At 6 a.m., Miami was reporting a wind gust to 114 miles per hour. And a little bit earlier at the National Hurricane Center, they had gusts as high as 164 miles per hour. The system moving to the west at 16 miles per hour. And this is a very preliminary forecast now, but it looks like the track right now will be somewhere towards the central Gulf Coast over the next couple of days. Certainly time to start making plans. And our regional radar shows the eye as it did move onshore. Looks like it moved onshore just a bit earlier in the Coral Gables, Biscayne Bay area, and the eye now located just to the west of Homestead, Florida. It will move across the Everglades the next couple of hours and then merge out into the warm Gulf waters and regenerate there. Looking at the national radar, we got some showers up in the Great Lakes area around Jackson, Michigan. They've reported some early morning rain. And then a pretty sharp cold front here over the north central states where we had a big temperature contrast yesterday, and we can see a lot of rain along that frontal boundary again this morning. Alexandria, Minnesota reporting rain, as is Huron, South Dakota, North Platte, Nebraska, and then the eastern parts of Colorado like Fort Collins and Colorado Springs. Also down in the southwest, we still have some shower activity around the backside of the moisture from Lester. Of course, a lot of it not showing up because of the mountains, but it has been raining this morning, at Farmington, New Mexico, and down at Douglas, Arizona. Let's check out the morning national map, and a lot of fog with a high pressure area, light winds, clear skies over the eastern part of the country, quite foggy around Atlantic City, New Jersey this morning, up towards Bangor, Maine, and Lebanon, New Hampshire. As we head out into the central part of the country, the fog continues. Visibility a quarter of a mile down at Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and Paducah, Kentucky. The fog up over the north central states, the rain, the showers, a few thunder showers we were looking at with the frontal system, and then this very cold air mass that brought the snow to the northern Rockies over the weekend. Still a little bit of snow falling up around Bozeman, Montana this morning, but cold air has moved into the northwest, and we've already had record lows this morning at Boise, Idaho, and Spokane, Washington. Some fog down through the southern part of California. Early morning temperatures at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central Time range from 83 degrees at Vero Beach, Florida. It was 28 degrees at Burns, Oregon. Joan?
Wayne's filled us in on the weather up to the present time. Let's get into the forecast segment of our program. We'll start out with the map for this Monday evening. Of course, all eyes on Florida, and we find that by this evening, preliminary forecasts have the hurricane off Florida's west coast. Showers and thunderstorms a good bet around that hurricane and into the southwest coast of Florida. High pressure will move off the mid-Atlantic coast, fair skies for much of the east, and scattered showers and thunderstorms along the Texas coast and into western Louisiana. With the cold front from low pressure just to the east of James Bay, trailing down, joining up with another low center in the mid-Mississippi Valley, rain and showers will be a good bet through much of the upper Midwest, across the Great Lakes, northward into Quebec. Showers and thunderstorms a good bet with the moisture across the plains and into the high plains, central Rockies, rain and showers, then back into the northern high plains, a mix of rain and some maybe wet snow again through the northern Rockies, and then rain and showers scattered across portions of western Canada. Then by Tuesday evening, we find the track of Andrew moving it westward in the Gulf Coast. Rain, showers, thunderstorms, good bet right around the hurricane, and then some scattered showers and thunderstorms should reach the central Gulf Coast. With the cold front, rain, showers, thunderstorms through much of the mid and upper Mississippi Valley, rain and showers across much of central Ontario into southern Quebec, and scattered rain and showers out to the Atlantic provinces. Showers and thunderstorms will also be scattered across the high plains, rain and showers scattered from the northern Rockies into the Canadian prairies, and then as another cold front pushes into British Columbia, rain and showers will be scattered from Vancouver Island eastward. Then by Wednesday evening, we find the preliminary indications that the hurricane will be located just along the central Gulf Coast to the south of Louisiana. Showers and thunderstorms again associated with it from Texas through the lower Mississippi Valley. Showers and thunderstorms will be scattered from the southern plains northward along the front through the eastern lakes. Rain and showers across much of New England and into the Maritimes. Rain and showers also from central Manitoba across the central Rockies, parts of the Intermountain region. And as the cold front pushes farther inland, rain and showers will move along with it through eastern British Columbia, much of central.
Winds are southern at about 5 miles per hour, rolling out of a beautiful weekend into one more beautiful Monday. 85 degrees today so far, 65 the way we started early this morning. Let's take a look at the satellite picture. We took a big vantage point for you so you could not only see the clear skies in our area, but a very clear shot of the hurricane that is Hurricane Andrew, first one of the Atlantic season, that is now sitting just offshore off of Florida's Gulf coastline, actually beginning to move into the Gulf, picking up the warmer waters here and now transferring its energy, it looks like, toward the Gulf Coast, anywhere along the Alabama coastline toward the Louisiana coastline. This thing is a compact hurricane. Hurricane force sustained winds really just 30 miles across the very center of it, but it is the strongest one down in that region since Betsy in 1965. Here's a look at the latest position now for you, the Hurricane Andrew. Take a look at longitude now at 28.8 north or 25.8 north, longitude at 83.9 west. The winds, high sustained winds at 140 miles per hour. Highest winds out of this system reported early this morning just south of Miami at 164 miles per hour. Now continuing moving west at about 18 miles an hour. As the system, again, as we told you, moves into the Gulf, it's got plenty of warm water to feed off of, and it's one of the crucial elements to build a stronger hurricane. Now, here's where we think this thing is running, and new warnings have just been issued for the area, really Pascagoula, Mississippi, on toward Vermilion Bay in Louisiana. Most likely target spot looks like it's going to move just west of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and kind of on toward Lake Charles, Louisiana at this point, and that could be before the midnight hours of tomorrow night. So we'll keep a close eye on Andrew, and again, here's the position tomorrow, continuing to strengthen and just sit there in the Gulf Coast. For us, could not be a nicer pattern of weather. We finally get the area of high pressure all summer long we've been talking about. A Bermuda high sitting right off the shoreline, continually pumping up nice warm air in our direction. We will pick up a little bit more haze, a little bit more humidity as our time goes on, but it looks right now we've blocked into a summer pattern that probably won't change for a couple of days running now. So tomorrow our weather becomes a little more humid at 88 degrees for a high number. It's warmer as well. Really no problems in the skies. We've effectively shut off any moisture creeping in our direction. Andrew is tapping into all of that and pulling it into the Gulf, so not even likely that tomorrow we'll get any thunder showers.
The hardest hit areas was the Hamptons on Long Island, where many people were killed by the tidal surge. In all, 600 people died and $400 million in damage was done. By 1969, hurricane tracking had dramatically changed, so that when Hurricane Camille, one of the strongest hurricanes in history, slammed into Mississippi, people knew it was coming. The damage was still extensive, but the death toll was much lower. Using satellite, radar, and aircraft for early warning, many lives were saved. Still, 256 people died, and Camille caused $1.5 billion in damage. In 1989, advanced hurricane tracking again helped save many lives during Hurricane Hugo. It still caused $7 billion in damage, but this time only 49 people were killed. When Andrew began approaching Florida, 1 million people were evacuated out of the danger area where the tidal surge and the storm center was expected to hit hardest. Nowadays, early warning is managing to save more and more lives, and property damage has now become the biggest casualty as more and more people...
8 people in Dade County, Florida, are confirmed to be dead, 4 people in the Bahamas, and the death toll is possibly going to rise even farther than that particular figure. Let's look at where the hurricane is located right now. 25.8 degrees north, 83.9 degrees west. It's traveling now on a course due west at about 18 miles an hour. It's 470 miles southeast of New Orleans, but that trajectory is expected to change a little bit, veering to the northwest, which would put it on a more direct course for New Orleans. And so there are hurricane warnings in effect right now from the narrow strip of coast in the state of Mississippi. From there, the Louisiana-Mississippi state line to Vermilion Bay in Louisiana. And given the delta area of Louisiana, which lies very low, in some places technically below sea level, there is a real danger of flooding because of the massive rain, 5 to 10 inches in the path of the hurricane, winds of 140 miles an hour, and Hurricane Andrew is a storm to be reckoned with still in that part of the United States.
Lauderdale to Naples to Marco Island on the Gulf Coast. People are returning from shelters to find their homes in ruin. At least 8 people are dead from Andrew's 160-mile-an-hour winds that slammed into South Florida near Miami. Steve Handelsman is live now in Miami with the very latest. Steve?
Good evening. Well, here in South Florida, the death toll could definitely rise, and it's far too early to...
An aftermath of the movement of Hurricane Andrew. People who have the least get hurt the hardest, watching their whole lives torn up and destroyed right in front of their eyes, hoping that maybe they'll be able to rebuild on the ashes of what they've got left. As time passes, Hurricane Andrew, like Hugo and Camille before him, will soon be forgotten. For some, that forgetting may be very difficult, maybe impossible. You make something out of all this again?
Oh, I'll sell the aluminum for scrap and get what 10 cents a pound or whatever they give you now.
Good luck.
Of their home collapsed.
First thing that happened was the windows upstairs blew out.
Upstairs. Something crashed upstairs.
Something crashed upstairs?
Yeah, like window breaking out.
Right.
And all of a sudden the wind come down the stairway and started moving the doors back and forth, and we stood here and held them for about 15 or 20 minutes, and they just blew right out of our hands.
I am thrilled. We are alive, we're safe, we have a dry room we're in.
Right.
And I think God's been very good to us.
Right.
The house is gone, but you can't take it with you. You can always build another if you have your life.
Gonzalo Zaldumbide spent the night guarding this shop.
Look at the place. It's gone, and we were in there. I thought we were going to die.
As far as I can see, the business is gone. It's going to take us a couple of months to get it going again. But we'll get it going. They're just lucky that we're all alive.
The looting began at mid-morning in stores broken open by the storm. Nothing the police could do for many Miami businessmen. They had already been looted by Hurricane Andrew. To prevent further problems by human thieves and criminals, the police here have announced a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew. And the police and National Guard will be out on the streets here in Miami. The entire greater Miami area affected. Be out on the streets to enforce that curfew in less than an hour. This is Steve Handelsman reporting live from Miami. Back to you.
All right, Steve, thank you.
Well, even at this hour, people are still trying to get back to their storm-damaged neighborhoods. And as Ralph Penza reports, some will return to find that little remains of their homes and possessions.
Like a bomb hit it, like Hiroshima. It's unbelievable.
The farther south you go, the more damage you see from Hurricane Andrew. And that applied to Miami neighborhoods in the southern part of the city.
Very life-threatening. I never want to experience anything like that before ever again in my life.
This family has just arrived. They have not seen their home yet. They don't know what has happened. We're going with them to see.
I don't want to go in there.
The young couple and their small son found the home damaged outside, but in the darkened rooms inside, the shock.
That's supposed to be a hallway that leads into a bedroom.
Now it's no wall.
What did this home mean to you?
Well, I'm 25. This is my life. This was my house. This was my investment in my life.
Left in my normal house.
You need another house.
Yeah.
And the fierce winds of Andrew did other kinds of damage. The most lingering danger of all, down power lines all over the Miami area, cars moving very slowly, people afraid of what those power lines can mean.
It's just dangerous and
scary.
It's very scary.
It took just a few hours for Hurricane Andrew to devastate this neighborhood. Were you there when the hurricane hit?
Yeah, we were inside. My sister, my mom had come from the beach. It was pretty devastating. The wind was amazing, shaking. I thought the roof was going to literally blow off.
Ralph Penza, News 4, New York.
Well, hundreds of miles from the fierce hurricane, many folks right here in our area spent a restless night waiting for word from loved ones in Florida. Much of the concern came from Union City, New Jersey, which has a large Cuban-American population in the country, second only to Miami. Fortunately, long-distance telephone lines were not severely damaged, so loved ones could get through.
Communication this morning. She said it was very bad down there.
I'm first talking about the weather in the southeastern part of the nation and that Hurricane Andrew. So we'll start with that. And by contrast, our weather is completely different, as we've already alluded. It's so much nicer. First, a view of the satellite picture. You see the really well-defined swirling winds that is Hurricane Andrew, and it's sweeping across Florida in this view, making its way out into the Gulf of Mexico. Where is it located? Well, its coordinates, officially speaking, are 25.8 degrees north, 83.9 degrees west, and that places it 470 miles southeast of New Orleans. And at the moment, it's heading just about due west at 18 miles an hour, packing those 140-mile-an-hour winds. However, it is expected to veer a bit to the northwest and that north-northwest, and that would take it on a more direct course for New Orleans, where obviously there are hurricane warnings in effect. Back to our area, 85 the high, 65 the low, temperatures in the 70s and 80s around that.
Reportedly leaving 4 people dead there. Then the hurricane came plumb bob straight right to the coast of Florida, slamming shore this morning just after 5 o'clock Eastern Time, 25 miles southwest of Miami. The eye of the storm tore through the community of Homestead, then raced, luckily for Floridians, across the very southern tip of Florida. Remember, the Everglades takes up a lot of that space, and 3 hours later entered the Gulf of Mexico. And that's where Hurricane Andrew is tonight, out in the Gulf of Mexico. It is expected to hit land again, with Mississippi and Louisiana considered the most likely places where it may hit. Now, earlier today, I went to perhaps the hardest hit area of Florida, that Homestead section of the state, 25 miles just southwest of here in Miami. The eye of the hurricane roared directly over Homestead moments after slamming first into the edge of the Florida coast.
This is the Highway of Heartbreak, Florida's new Trail of Tears. As we drove south on the Florida Turnpike from Miami down toward Homestead, the extent of the damage was stunningly evident.
The word is incredible. The place is an overpass near Homestead, Florida. The main force of the hurricane winds came through here. Gust up to 165 miles an hour. Let me show you something. See, these are light poles on the overpass. This is where one was. The force and twist of the wind broke this off. The whole light pole is down there. Now, from here in the overpass, as far as the eye can see, there are, I do not exaggerate, thousands of roofs blown off homes in this area.
A storage facility that looked as if it had been bombed. Personal belongings blown everywhere. Overturned vehicles were scattered and strewn for miles.
Well, welcome to the Holiday Inn.
Welcome to the Holiday Inn, where we found not only a building destroyed, but lives in shambles, too.
We are at the hotel. Just a few employees will stay because our house is, we lived on Holiday Road. There's no house. We have no house to go back to. And Paul, my brother,
My new car is totaled.
brand new. Up in Pensacola, come get us.
Don't cry. Don't cry.
At least you're alive.
It's okay.
Don't cry.
Okay. What's been lost?
Well, I'm the food and beverage director. I've lost my restaurant, and my bar, my banquet rooms. We've lost our homes. We've lost everything.
The National Guard was hurried to this shopping center where, incredibly, looting was going on during the storm.
What's happened here? These three gentlemen right here are under arrest for looting. They were caught inside here by members of the Guard and a Metro-Dade officer as they were inside the Bernheim.
What this was, I don't know, but it was a 3/4 of a city block of something. Gone, leveled. Across the street, Toys R Us has become Toys Was Us. Completely destroyed. President Bush has declared 3 counties federal disaster areas, and in the neighborhoods, you could see why. People trying to climb out, clean up, and figure out what they have left. Anybody hurt?
No, nobody was in there. Everybody, we were inside, you know, my parents were in the bathroom with my brother and sister, and I was in the closet with some friends.
Are you Catholic?
Yeah.
Were you praying?
Oh, yeah.
All night.
This was your room?
Yep. I mean, it's just ironic that you know, that picture there that was just given to us is just standing still there, but...
And the people. These people are not accustomed to easy lives. Today they kept telling us it was worse someplace else. And it was. Did you think you might die?
Yeah, one time I thought the roof was coming off, and we would go flying.
So what were you doing at that moment?
What I was doing, praying. Very hard.
After a long night, everyone who lives along the Homestead Highway is still in shock, still in disbelief. You know, I think some people saw some of the hurricane and said, well, it's not so bad.
It is. It's terrible.
I don't think anybody got killed, so that's a good part.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Property can always be replaced.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Good luck
thank
to you.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right.
Good luck.
We need it.
Sorry this happened to you. Thank you. Yes, they need it. Luck and a lot of help. Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, live from Florida. We'll take you across the Gulf to the place the hurricane may hit next, so stay here with us. Dr. Neil Frank, our thanks to the friends at AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph, who've been so terrific to us and for us today. Dan Rather, reporting live from Florida for the CBS Evening News. For news about the hurricane, stay tuned to this CBS station. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Good evening, I'm Lynn Brown. Rosanna Scotto is here with me. Jack and Cora Ann are off tonight. A killer storm brought death and chaos to Florida, and tonight, all the way from Alabama to Texas, they are bracing for Hurricane Andrew's next crash landing. So far, 12 people are reported dead in Florida and the Bahamas. Eric Shawn is in Miami Beach, and he has this report.
At dawn, it was a city under siege, pounded helplessly by the unforgiving rain and winds gusting to an incredible 165 miles an hour. As the sky cleared, the terrible price was apparent. At least 12 dead, countless injured. Wooden houses in some areas were ripped apart, roofs torn off, hundreds of thousands of trees felled as Hurricane Andrew sliced through the South Florida coast with such vengeance.
I've never been so scared in my life. My life is tragic. My friend's life is over here. It's a tragedy.
I can't believe it happened. And last night we were frightened to death.
Andrew's landfall came in the early morning darkness of 5 a.m. Power to more than 1 million people was cut off. They were told to boil water before they drink it. Many have no food at all, while others openly help themselves.
Well, it's open, and everybody else done it. I stopped for about an hour and listened to everybody else.
That's open, but it's been destroyed.
I know, but what can I say?
In downtown Miami, as police arrest suspected looters, a 7 to 7 curfew has been imposed for Dade County. Office building windows were blown out, while this shopping center was completely demolished.
All your saving going that easy in one quick, just like that.
1 million evacuated residents slowly return to uncertainty.
Oh, it's hard to say because it's devastating. You know, I had no idea that anything like this could have happened, you know. 12 years of my life.
Gone.
Not gone, we just got to start over.
Andrew has left its mark of death and destruction, and parts of the city are paralyzed. Yet despite this devastation, people vow to rebuild, for really, they have no other choice. I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News, Miami.
The hurricane has left parts of southern Florida cut off from the rest of the world. That means a tense wait for worried relatives, including a young mother on Long Island sitting anxiously by the phone. Jeff Weiser reports.
And people are stocking up on supplies. Louisiana's governor is telling people in New Orleans and other southeastern areas to leave town and to leave now. Well, Nick Gregory has been tracking the storm all day. He's here now to tell us what path it has taken and where it just might be heading. Nick?
Thanks, Liv. We've been watching it come across Florida during the day. Now it has moved back out into the Gulf of Mexico, and you can see that it is still a very defined hurricane. The eye right in the center of the storm. The winds have not decreased. Remember, Florida is a very flat geographical landmass, so that does not help in weakening hurricanes, and this still has 140-mile-an-hour winds, as is now moving off to the west at about 18 miles per hour. And again, it looks like it will start making more of a turn eventually towards the north coast of the Gulf of Mexico. So the National Hurricane Center now has a hurricane warning up for most of the coast of Louisiana with hurricane watches surrounding that. And if it does hit into New Orleans, that's one of the worst cities to have a hurricane because most of that city is actually below sea level. I'll have more on Andrew and the rest of our weather, which is looking pretty good, actually, in just a little bit. Rosanna?
Okay, thanks, Nick. Can you tell us what's happening, Nick?
Well, the good news for Florida, Rosanna, is that they're just about getting out of the whole storm right now. They did have a problem, of course, this morning when Hurricane Andrew came right on shore just south of Miami, and now it has moved into the Gulf of Mexico. So Florida is going to get a break. However, the folks along the Gulf Coast from Alabama on into Texas are on the lookout, especially in Louisiana, because it looks like that's exactly where Andrew's going to be heading. It has not lost much intensity. In fact, it's been maintaining 140-mile-per-hour winds all day long. They're the latest coordinates: 25.8 north, 83.9 west. That's 470 miles to the southeast of New Orleans. The hurricane warnings are now up for most of the Louisiana coast, and again, New Orleans, one of the worst cities to have to deal with a hurricane because they are below sea level. Much of that area is like 10 to 30 feet below sea level, and anytime a storm moves up from this direction, you have to worry about flooding in the city itself. They could go 10 to 20 feet underwater in the city of New Orleans if that storm comes right at them. So we'll be watching that closely. There's Andrew down in the Gulf. We have no problems. High pressure is built in control. It gave us a beautiful weekend. Finally, in the New York area, we finally did one good weekend this summer, and it looks like the weather will stay nice, although these winds have been moving out of the southwest constantly now, so you notice the humidity increasing today. That's going to continue to increase tonight and tomorrow as we stay rather warm. Eventually, this front will come in, and that may give us some storms by the end of the week. Let's check our current reading now in Central Park. Our temperature is at a very warm 76 degrees. Humidity, again, coming up to 67% in the southeasterly wind. We had a high of 85 today and a low of 65, very close to normal. And overnight, our forecast is muggy, mostly clear, 68 in town, 60 to 65 in the suburbs. Hazy and humid tomorrow with sunshine, the high 88, and the 5-day forecast showing it stays warm on Wednesday, 88 with some clouds. Storms for Thursday and Friday scattered in the area. The better chance probably on Saturday when we may have the remnants of Andrew up our way. More tonight at 10. Tune in for an update on Andrew and the rest of the weather. Rosanna?
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Well, Andrew kicking up quite fast in the Gulf of Mexico, and I'll have that for you in just a second. Right now we're going to talk about today, and it was a summer day finally in New York City after a very summer weekend. Hey, folks, can't complain about this past weekend. It finally did not rain for a change. 85 and 65 today, no rain. 94 and 52 are extremes for the day. Right now in New York, under a hazy, clear kind of sky. It's got a bit more humid. The current temperature now 72 degrees. Humidity up to about 67 to 70% or so. And there we go. 84%. I'm talking about the dew point. I knew that. Yeah. Wind out of the south of 3, the barometer 30.28, and it's going up. Okay, temperatures across the area pretty mild, basically in the High 60s to the mid-70s, even 77 now at Newark, 68 at Poughkeepsie, 67 Danbury, and we have 65 at Morristown tonight. Let's watch the hurricane come across Florida earlier. Now it's into the Gulf of Mexico, and it has not strengthened anymore. It's still holding at a dangerous level of 140-mile-per-hour winds, but what is happening now, the aircraft reconnaissance going into this hurricane are finding that the wind field is growing, so the hurricane force winds are now spreading outward from 70 miles from the center. Those are the new coordinates, 26.3 north, 85.7 west, or 365 miles to the southeast of New Orleans. The red areas where the hurricane warning is in effect, and it continues to move to the west with top winds of 140 miles an hour, may slow down a little bit, so we're going to have to see exactly when it would make landfall somewhere along the Louisiana coast. Nonetheless, New Orleans is the worst place it can go. That city is actually below sea level, so they're going to have a lot of problems with the storm down there. No problems for us. You see, we have clear weather across the eastern states and storms across the Midwest, and cool weather diving into the plains where it's in the 50s, while most of the east is in the 80s and into the 90s. By tomorrow, we still stay in that summer pattern. The high builds off the coast, so it'll be a beautiful day for us. Not so nice for the folks getting ready for the hurricane down in Louisiana as Andrew approaches them. And eventually, this front may grab Andrew and bring it towards us. That may be like late Friday or Saturday. So for tonight, muggy and some fog, 68 in town, low 60s north and west, and a hazy sky. Haze tomorrow with sunshine, the high 88 on the 5-day forecast. We'll show you that we still have some haze and sunshine around here on Wednesday, 88 degrees. Maybe an afternoon thunderstorm starting on Thursday, 85, a better chance Friday, and then again, depending on what happens with Andrew, or what's left of Andrew by then, for Saturday, wouldn't you know, it's going to happen on a weekend. That's what we're used to.
Or
Canadian air.
Well, there's much talk about greenhouse effects and the effects of volcanoes. Whatever it is, there's a lot of extreme weather about, and certainly folks interested in the latest on what's happening in the Florida area, the Gulf Coast, Hurricane Andrew. Ira Joe Fisher with the latest.
I think that's the ice house effect in Colorado, David and Carol. All right, the latest on the hurricane starts with a traditional satellite view, and we see this incredibly well-organized hurricane and its eye, very visible there on the satellite picture as it moved across Florida and back into the open waters now of the Gulf of Mexico. Packing 140-mile-an-hour winds. Its location is about 365 miles southeast of New Orleans, and at the moment it's moving west at 18 miles an hour, and it is expected then over the next several hours to veer to the northwest and be bearing down upon Louisiana and perhaps even New Orleans. The landfall expectation now is that perhaps that will happen late tomorrow into early Wednesday. In our part of the world, at 11 o'clock, temperatures in the 60s.
Let's take a look, first of all, at the location of the jet stream. Find the jet across the trough of low pressure well in the northern Pacific and then dies off out in the western part of the nation. Another branch of the jet associated with the inclement weather from the north-central part of the nation and then cuts eastward across the eastern provinces of Canada. So we put this picture into motion. The major weather features are, of course, Hurricane Andrew in the Gulf, and then high pressure covers much of the eastern part of the nation. Remains of Lester have moved out of Colorado and New Mexico and are streaming northward into the Mississippi Valley. We'll turn our attention now to the U.S. sequence of pictures, and of course, Andrew crossed southern Florida, causing devastating damage as it did so, along with some heavy rains. The rainfall amounts are spotty, but Miami picked up about 2 inches, as did West Palm Beach, while Fort Myers picked up about a ½ an inch. Now, high pressure takes over through the eastern part of the nation. Some areas of showers and thunderstorms along the South Atlantic coast and through the lower Mississippi Valley. But with the remains of Lester, we saw plenty of moisture, rain showers, and thunderstorms across Colorado and New Mexico with flooding in some spots. Denver picked up more than 2 inches of rain during the afternoon hours, and this rain is spreading northward into the upper Mississippi Valley. Redwood Falls, Minnesota picked up about 1 inch of rain. Now, cool air has settled into the interior Northwest and the Rockies. Even some snow fell in Colorado. The San Juan Mountains picked up 2 inches of snow by noontime, and temperatures are some 20 to 30 degrees below normal throughout the region. Records were set yesterday morning, among them Great Falls, Montana, and Spokane, Washington. Let's move on now to the tropical Atlantic, and of course, Andrew continues its trek into the Gulf of Mexico. Sustained winds remained at about 140 miles per hour most of the day. Now, the coordinates as of this morning put Andrew about 270 miles to the southeast of New Orleans. As I mentioned, maximum sustained winds remain at 140 miles per hour. The hurricane-force winds extend 70 miles away from the center. Now, little change in strength is expected during the next day or so. Andrew moves to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. There's the projected forecast track.
putting the eye of Andrew on shore by sometime tomorrow afternoon. So we take a look now at the regional NORAD. We find the outer fringes of precipitation from Andrew are already showing up on radar. They're about 118 nautical miles due south of Mobile, Alabama. Let's take a look at what's going on now across the rest of the country with the National Radar Summary. And of course, the bulk of the precipitation this time is occurring through the central part of the nation, from West Texas northward through the plains and into the upper Mississippi Valley. Tops range from about 27 to as high as 35,000 feet. The outer band of precipitation with Andrew as highest tops to 47,000 feet. Same tops to some showers off the South Carolina coast, and then some areas of showers across western New York State. Highest tops there to 30,000 feet. We'll move on now to the current weather map, and we find the wavy front extends from the Maritimes through the Great Lakes and then back into the Intermountain region with high pressure, light winds. A lot of fog is formed again through much of the east. Visibility down to 1/8 mile in fog and drizzle at both St. John's, Newfoundland and Hamilton, Ontario. 1/8 mile in fog also down at Elkins, West Virginia. Rain, drizzle, and fog is formed this morning also through the north-central part of the nation. Low visibility is associated with this as well. Visibility down to 1 mile at Saginaw, Michigan, and at Marquette. 3/4 of a mile in rain and fog at Cheyenne, Wyoming, and down to 1 mile at Akron, Colorado. Weather's more tranquil out in the western part of the country. Fog is formed across much of Vancouver Island and into western Washington. Visibility right down to 0 at Cape St. James, British Columbia, and 1/8 mile at Quileute, Washington. The temperature extremes around the nation at 6 a.m. Eastern Time ranged from 26 degrees at Yellowstone Parkway.
And stick and we're holding at 84 degrees after being 91 today. Relative humidity at 63%. The barometer falling off, but it's just a temporary thing. We're still being held on by high pressure. Still going to keep our skies fairly clear except for that haze and fairly warm. South-southeast winds at 6 miles per hour. Again, 91 today. 95 would have been a record, so very warm. Satellite picture shows you we're developing a few scattered thunder showers, thunderstorms in the bright white clouds here over New York State. Sullivan County, Orange County getting some of those storms. They'll be around for another 2 hours. Again, as Bill said, the big storm continues to be Andrew, Hurricane Andrew, still sitting in the Gulf, slowing down a bit but not weakening any, now moving north-northwest at about 17 miles per hour. New Orleans, not a likely hit point, but there will still be some problems from New Orleans. It looks like we're going to take this thing a little bit to the west until Andrew finally finds its way onshore someplace before 10 o'clock tonight, probably just west of Lake Charles, Louisiana, or between Lafayette and Lake Charles. Here's the way the rainfall totals will go on this system, and carrying a lot of rain, it certainly will be. As it hits the Gulf, it'll be loaded with rain up to 16 inches right along the coastline, but a lot of places above 8 inches right here in this loop, about 125 miles onshore. As it spreads, it'll spread more and more rain up, and it's likely that we'll be telling you about some flooding going on in the southern Ohio River Valley during the next couple of days. What happens is Andrew weakens quickly once it hits landfall tonight, spreads a lot of the moisture along this cold front. The moisture will take its time to run along the cold front, finally wrapping around the low. By the time it gets around that low, it'll be about Thursday night into Friday. That means thunderstorms and thunder showers for us as the low gets closer to us. Until then, though, it's hot and it's sticky. It's going to be uncomfortable for a couple of nights. 70 degrees, warm and humid. AccuWeather forecast says for tomorrow, hazy, hot and humid one more time, another day above 90. That would make the 7th day this summer. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the forecast days, 90 degrees tomorrow, 88 on Thursday, not much cooler. Thunderstorms will try to cool things off, Bill, for some showers probably on Friday with 82 degrees.
Thank you. Towards the northwest. I think that we're finally beginning to see this, a gradual, and I emphasize gradual, towards the northwest. And if that continues this evening, it looks like the southwest Louisiana coast is the most likely spot for this for the system to move inland. And by the system, I'm talking about the eye of the storm to move inland, and that should take place later this evening.
Thanks, Dr. Frank. We will talk to you again later in the broadcast. Scott Pelley is in that south central part of Louisiana in the hurricane's path, Morgan City. Scott?
Dan, the wind is beginning to pick up here.
Yeah, I checked that one. I checked this room.
Today, firefighters began the slow and grim search for the missing, probing through the rubble of mangled homes leveled by Hurricane Andrew.
Right on the very corner.
So far, rescuers have found the body of a woman who decided to weather the storm at home. At least 15 people are reported dead. For most, though, the day after was one of survival. Hundreds lined up to receive water, now scarce. Each face in line has a story. Most are tired, realizing the full magnitude of the crisis.
I am at a loss. There's no question about that. Really just starting to sink in, you know. The first day, I was just happy to be alive, you know. And now these are where the real problems are, you know.
It's survival. Just how to survive. How to take care of our families. How to get water, food.
For residents, cleanup is difficult. Thousands are without power, food, or water. Stores are closed. Factories gutted. Gasoline is almost non-existent.
Is today one of those days where it just feels like it's just going to be so hard to get it all back together?
Yeah, it does.
And help doesn't come quickly. For residents, it's a test in patience.
I've contacted the insurance company. The guy said, well, we'll be out to you as soon as we can get there. What does that mean?
Despite a day's warning, few were really prepared for the ferocity of Andrew, the strongest hurricane to hit South Florida since 1928. Even Homestead Air Force Base was gutted. 4,600 servicemen were evacuated. 2 F-16s destroyed. Nearby hospitals...
30 miles per hour, and you can see the eye is very, very well defined here as it approaches the south coast of Louisiana. This trend continues, probably coming on shore sometime maybe just after midnight near Morgan City, Louisiana is what it looks like now if it continues again on that path with the dangerous 140-mile-per-hour winds, 28.2 north, 90.3 west. And again, you can just see how very well defined it is. We're getting a great picture, too, from the radar sites down in southern Louisiana. You can see the eye of the storm right here, these spiral bands of heavy rain sweeping counterclockwise around the storm. And already the coastal communities, they are having hurricane conditions of strong winds, and the water has already started to rise along the south coast of Louisiana. I'll be back with more on Andrew and how it may affect our own weather here in the New York area, and that'll be in just a little bit. Lynn?
Okay, Nick, you can grab a pen
Almost
now.
towards the southern Louisiana coastline. Latest radar shows exactly where the eye is, the spiral bands coming around. Southern coastal Louisiana is now seeing hurricane wind, which means the wind is up over 75 miles per hour there. Now, Andrew's going to come ashore later tonight and early tomorrow morning, and we'll see the thunderstorms in the Midwestern states eventually get to us, but we're still dominated by fair weather, so we're looking summery here, hazy and humid the next couple of days, maybe just some thunderstorms that'll develop here later on in the period. Let's go and check out our current reading now in New York City. The temperature 83 degrees, humidity 63%, the wind is calm, the barometer 3013, and it's holding steady. Can we go right to the 5-day forecast because we'll show you exactly what will be taking place over the next couple of days. 88 tomorrow after morning low of 71 degrees. Look for some late-day thunderstorms on Thursday. The remnants of Andrew may be here on Friday as we cool down to about 80. If it gets out of here in time, the weekend looks okay, at least from this standpoint. More on Andrew and the rest of the weather tonight at 10. Lynn?
Thank you very much, Carl. Let's...
Of Hurricane Andrew's 160-mile-per-hour winds. By considering that I cannot stand up on my own at 80 miles an hour.
A wind speed of about 30 miles per hour is a good average that's used when it's difficult to walk. A wind speed of, say, 60 miles per hour has the capability of uprooting trees. Above that, it has to be fatal.
Objects such as bricks and 2x4s become lethal projectiles.
If it's picked up by the wind, it'll be traveling, in essence, at the speed of the wind, and you can imagine that will be a tremendous hazard to anyone.
And at speeds of 160 miles per hour, we become a human missile. Scott Smith, Fox News, Chicago.
Thanks so much, Lynn. It is tranquil here compared to what's going on down in Louisiana right now, and I do have the very latest satellite and radar pictures to show you, so they're coming in just a second. First of all, let's talk about today in New York City. Well, summer has arrived, only 2 months late, but we hit 91 today. That hasn't happened many times this year that we've broken the 90-degree mark, but 91 now, or for the high today, 69 the low this morning, and no precip in New York today, just a lot of hazy sunshine. 95 and 52 are extremes, both back in the 1940s. Right now in New York City, it is 81 uncomfortable degrees with a humidity that's awfully high, around 70% again. When we talk about dew point, that's sort of a measure of how comfortable the air can be and how much moisture the air can really hold, and when that dew point gets around the 70-degree plus range, it's uncomfortable, and you just walk outside, you'll feel that. Westerly wind at 7, the barometer 3014 and rising. Still 85, though, at Newark, very warm there, 84 out of Queens tonight. Then it drops back to the mid-70s. You get out to Centerport and Mattatuck, and lower 70s by Danbury, Poughkeepsie, White Plains, back towards Vernon. Looking at 77 at Rivervale tonight, and 79 in New Providence. All right, down to the trouble area, and that is the Gulf Coast as Andrew is bearing down on Louisiana. And again, that little dot in the middle is the eye, very well defined, still 140-mile-per-hour winds. It's just south of the Louisiana coastline. It's wobbling a little bit, not very uncommon when hurricanes of this intensity get close to the coast. It's like spinning a top and having it bounce off a wall or something. Again, the circulation now getting sort of bounced around with the land here, and you can see how it tends to sort of wiggle, and actually it's almost come to a stop here on the radar sequence, but it'll continue to move very, very slowly, it looks like, to the northwest. To the right of that storm, Grand Isle, Louisiana, at those type of locations are really getting battered right now with winds up over 100 to 130 miles per hour. and the storm surge likely to be in excess of 15 feet, so that's a big problem for them. There it is on the wide satellite. You can see another front dropping down with storms ahead of it across the mid-Mississippi Valley. That front will actually grab Andrew in the next couple of days, and that will have an effect on our weather down the road. We're protected now with high pressure that brought hazy sunshine and temperatures into the 90s today. Tomorrow, we're still protected by that area, so the same kind of weather forecast tomorrow. Andrew's still in minimal hurricane weakening, though, heading with that front. That front will get here by the end of the week, and so will the remnants of Andrew, probably by late Friday, maybe getting out in time for the weekend. Muggy and fog with hazy conditions overnight, 71 in town, mid-60s north and west. Hazy and humid tomorrow, 88 to near 90 degrees once again. Check the 5-day forecast, and you'll see that we have afternoon thunderstorms on Thursday, the high 87. Best chance of rain later on Friday, hopefully getting out early on Saturday, 77 on Saturday, and then a nice Sunday. We'll see what happens, and again, the latest on what happens with Andrew, we'll have that for you tomorrow. Rosanna?
Okay. The coast of Louisiana that is inhabited is completely underwater. The wall of the hurricane is now pounding the coast of Louisiana, knocking out power, sending thousands of people into shelters. The governor of Louisiana has declared a state of emergency, but New Orleans may be spared a direct hit because Andrew appears to be turning slightly to the west, thereby threatening less populated areas. Diana?
That's good to know. Sam Champion's at the weather board right now with the very latest on Andrew. Sam?
The eye wall, as you said, has already struck the marshy coastline of Louisiana. Here's the timetable for this system. By about 1 o'clock in the morning, past Morgan City, which is about 14,000 population. Then by 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, very near Lafayette, about 164,000 population. 7 o'clock in the morning, good solidly north of Lafayette. By 7 o'clock in the evening, right at the border. This is 240 miles it will have traveled from the coastline of Louisiana. By that point only, it will be breaking up. Hurricane force winds diminishing to tropical storm force wind. Satellite picture shows you this thing is still well put together and pounding the shoreline as it moves in. Again, about 12 hours worth of solid rain and hurricane force winds. It's going to be a rough night and a rough part of the day tomorrow for Louisiana. Our skies could not look much better. In contrast, we have mostly clear skies out there. Even the thunderstorms that were north and west of the city this afternoon have dissipated. We're looking at about 70 degrees early in the morning, 68 toward the shoreline, inland number 61 to 67 degrees on the Jersey Shore. Yes, it'll be hazy tomorrow. Another day very much like today. Hot, humid, sticky all day long. We approach 90 degrees and may even surpass it in town. Certainly will in Newark tomorrow. And that sunshine could leave way to 1 or 2 afternoon thunderstorms. We're going to keep about a 30% likelihood that that will happen tomorrow. Again, north and west of the city, just as they formed today. Here's the system tomorrow. By tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, this storm is now a tropical storm, and it throws its moisture up against this cold front. Cold front will deliver it to the low, and by Thursday night into Friday, this low starts to pass in our direction. Yeah, we think we'll start to see some of that moisture in the form of thunderstorms and thunder showers. All of that in the next couple of days. 70 degrees, hazy and humid tomorrow morning. The rest of the day, it's hot, it's sticky, it's 90 degrees, it's August. AccuWeather forecast looks like this for the 5-day plan. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Again, tomorrow, 90 degrees. Thursday, 88 with some afternoon storms. Friday.
A new ridge of high pressure is building into the western part of the country. Big high pressure area over the east, and in between the two, this trough of low pressure, which has been acting as a channel for moisture out of the southwest and will undoubtedly act as a channel for moisture from Hurricane Andrew as it moves into the central part of the country as well. And near the right-hand edge of our picture here, big upper-level low circulation out in the Atlantic Ocean near Bermuda. And as you can see, things kind of clearing out over the western part of the country as weather systems are shunted up to the north with that high pressure area. Well, over North America, we'll get to Andrew more momentarily. As you can see through the central part of the country, though, we have the frontal system, its band of moisture, clouds, rain. Some heavy thunderstorms developed across parts of Iowa and Wisconsin during the afternoon hours, winds to 50 and 60 miles per hour in those two states. Waterloo, Iowa had an inch of rain in the afternoon hours, some strong thunderstorms in parts of eastern Kansas and into northern Missouri as well. Very cold yesterday, upper 50s, 60s again, northern plains. Got only to 44 degrees for a high at Custer, South Dakota, out in the Black Hills. Some scattered thunderstorms down across the southwest as well. Now, Hurricane Andrew, we pick it up at mid-afternoon yesterday, and you can see its course as it made its way to the Louisiana coast by early this morning. Weakening just a little bit as it did so. The early morning position here now overland, a little bit to the south-southeast of Lafayette, Louisiana, with maximum winds of 115 miles per hour. Tropical storm force winds extend 140 miles out from the center. Now we have a regional radar showing the hurricane as it moved onshore, And it looks like the eye now, if you're familiar with the area, would place it right along Interstate 90 between Morgan City and New Iberia. Now, in Morgan City, they've been reporting gusts to 140 miles per hour this morning. Many roofs off, buildings collapsing. In fact, the shelter at the high school there, the roof was torn off. Lesser winds at places like Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And, of course, as we turn to the national radar summary, we pick up our hurricane again down along the Louisiana coast. When you have a system like this, always the potential for tornadoes. In fact, some tornadoes were reported out of these thunderstorms down here early this morning in Iberville and St. Charles parishes. You can see we've got some thunderstorm tops in that area running up to around 45,000 feet. Now, showers and thunderstorms with our front all the way from the lakes down to West Texas this morning. It's the southern end of the front where we have some thunderstorms as well. Places like Hobart and Ponca City, Oklahoma reported some thunderstorms this morning with maximum tops to 41,000 feet. In West Texas, more rain or shower type activity as you head northward. Some rain starting to move into the Chicago area now, up at Milwaukee and even into the northern part of Michigan, up around Pellston and Marquette. While an upper air disturbance brings some showery activity out here to the Black Hills and the Nebraska Panhandle, raining at Rapid City and Pierre, South Dakota. Now turning to our national map, in the east, the situation as we had yesterday morning, a lot of fog all the way from New England on southward into the deep south. Visibility down to a quarter of a mile at Atlanta this morning. Atlantic City foggy around the Great Lakes into adjoining parts of Ontario. Hamilton, Ontario, their visibility down to 0. And then that mix of rain and fog near the front. It's been slow to clear, but gradually clearing here over the north central states with this very cool air mass, which is going to keep temperatures down, again, rather below normal over the north central part of the country. More areas of rain or showers out here in Colorado, along with some fog. Colorado Springs, their visibility down to 0, and the usual pattern of fog here and there along the Pacific coast. Now, temperature extremes at 6 a.m. Eastern, 5 Central Time ranged from 83 at Biloxi, Mississippi. It was 24 degrees, both at Jackson, Wyoming, and in Yellowstone Park.
Mornings, they may not have caught you a little bit earlier. Give us an update on Andrew, if you would.